dilemmas. I've had the weirdest few days, topped off by the most surreal conversation I've ever had with the woman who's just left the cafe I'm sitting in writing this. I must admit, I was pretty surprised to hear from Leah. We'd nearly dated about 5 years ago, but we dillied and dallied, and then she'd met Rob and immediately fallen wildly in love. We'd seen each other a few times after they'd started dating, but neither of us' hearts were in it. If we weren't to be lovers, there was no enthusiasm to be friends. So we drifted apart like people do, bumping into each other now and again, sharing a coffee once or twice, but nothing special. So when she phoned me and wanted to chat to me, I wondered what was up. I wondered if her and Rob had split up and she was looking for a rebound relationship. But no, it was something much less run-of-the-mill than that. Over latte and cheesecake, Leah very matter-of-factly asked me if I would consider being the father of her child. Apparently Rob and her were having problems in that area and she didn't want to go through IVF. And well, she'd thought of me. I was full of questions. I asked her why she thought of me, if Rob knew, how she imagined it working. She said she knew I was single, I looked a bit like Rob, knew I wasn't keen on having my own kids, and also she'd always kind of fancied me. Then she dropped her voice and explained it would be our secret. We'd meet when it was the best time to conceive and hopefully produce a little miracle for Rob. She pointed out that she'd be doing it with Rob at the same time as well, just so no suspicions would be aroused. I sat back and puffed out my cheeks. I said I'd think about it. Now you might think that is a bit strange, but for me it was unbloody believable. You see, just yesterday I was sitting in this exact same cafe with my old friend Tony. I'd known Tony since university when she'd introduced herself as Tony with an I. I still called her that now. We were drinking latte and she was eating cheesecake, chatting about nothing much, when out of the blue she asked me if I'd consider helping her get pregnant. I looked at her in amazement. She was married to the other person who was there when she'd introduced herself to me all those years ago. My best friend, Mark, with a C. Mark Antonia. That always cracked me up. They'd started dating almost immediately and got married 4 weeks after graduation. Again, I was full of questions. I asked her, were they having any problems in that area? Why she thought of me, if Mark knew, how she imagined it working. There were no problems, she replied, and then she explained that Mark was a bit of a... She used a word I won't repeat here. I had to agree. Mark used to have a hell of a temper, and he was pretty selfish, although he got better with age. But then she brought up the subject of Mark's dad. Mark could be a tosser, but he was generally okay. But his dad was dangerous, an obsessive-compulsive, violent alcoholic. So Tony continued to explain to me how she loved Mark and she thought he'd make a great father, but she was scared to continue that gene pool. I nodded. I agreed, but could I do that? Could I betray my best friend and secretly be the father of his child? Why me, I asked. Well, 'cause you're you, she said, rather cryptically, explaining how she planned to use a cap with Mark while going unprotected with me. He'd never know. So that's where I am now. Decisions to make. My whole being says I should say no, but something is making me want to say yes. I just don't know. What would you do?